Good morning, my friend. We know our Chachamim tell us, Misha Tarach be'erev Shabbos Vayakhel b'Shabbos, that if you worked hard before Shabbos and you cooked and you cleaned, you can eat on Shabbos. Because Shabbos, you're not allowed to cook. Whatever's prepared before Shabbos, that's what you could enjoy. The Alter Rebbe is now going to explain that beruchnius. We're holding on page 174. On the bottom, Amud Dalid, which is it's really Pei Zayin Amud Dalid, which is 174, the second column on the bottom. V'zeu in Shabbos Shabbos and Lashem. The Torah uses a double lashon: Shabbos, Shabbos and Lashem. It's a Shabbos and a Shabbos for Hashem. Why is it a double lashon? It says the Alter Rebbe, we explained yesterday that during the week I have to be mizbeinen, and then when I'm mizbeinen, then I develop a love to Hashem. And the mizbeinenus from this week, the Alter Rebbe says, it's a mizbeinenus of Lach Shiv, it's a mizbeinenus of Hashem Echad. Aleph is the Eibishter Aluf Shalaylam. Ches is heaven, heavens and the earth. And Dal Ruchei Sa'ilam. That the Eibishter is creating everything and nothing exists without Hashem, and therefore everything is as if it doesn't really exist. When I meditate and I'm mizbeinen on that, it'll develop me to have love to the Eibishter. That's a love which is Lamata Me'aseichel, because it's coming from my intelligence. Then on Shabbos is a Giloi, V'ratza banu, the Eibishter puts a ratzain into me. It's a ratzain which is higher than my seichel. Now says Alter Rebbe, but even though it's from higher than your seichel, but you still have to prepare. You have to make a keli for it. That's why it's two Shabbosim. One Shabbos is going to be the Shabbos which is I develop during the week, and one Shabbos is the Shabbos that Hashem gives me on my own. Join down the Satzin Aliyah, which is the level of Ratzin, which is higher from Seichel. Hanimshach Mizgal b'Shabbos, which is drawn down and revealed on Shabbos. Hudavka Kishiyesh Kli L'Gilei is that it's specifically when there is a vessel for this art. In other words, if I didn't prepare before Shabbos, I'm not going to be a receptacle for this. Then what is the keli? For example, I have a cup, or here a cup. If I don't have the cup, I could pour the coffee, it's going to fall on the floor. I could pour water, it's going to fall on the floor. You need to have a keli for it. And that keli is doing the work during the week. Misha Tarach be'erev Shabbos. If I put the work during the week, that will allow me to contain the energy and the ratzain, v'ratza banu, the ratzain that Hashem is giving us on Shabbos. What's the keli for this? This is the lower ratzin. That's born from the seichel, and the meditation. But throughout the 6 days of the week, this ratzin hatachtin is called lower because it comes from the seichel. It's lower than the intelligence. That now on Shabbos becomes a receptacle, becomes just like a mug to coffee or a bottle to Coke. It becomes a keli that just like light comes into a vessel, into a keli, so too that's how it's going to be. The lower ratzin, even though it's much lower than the ratzin alien, it's a keli. It's a container that can contain the higher ratzin. That it should be enclosed in it. And throughout Shabbos it should really become one. The higher ratzin and the lower ratzin should become one throughout Shabbos. That's why the pasuk says a Shabbos of a Shabbos for Hashem. Why the two Shabboses? Because there are two Shabboses. There's a Shabbos that I developed during the week. I did the best I could to prepare for Shabbos. And then there's the Shabbos that Hashem gives me. There's a Ratzin Shalamata Me'aseichel, lower than Seichel, that I was mizbeinen during the week. And that's the first Shabbos. And Shabbosin is the Shabbos that Hashem gives me a Ratzin. That they become one. Why is a Ratzin Shabbos Lahavai? To explain that very quickly, going to explain something that, nowadays that we have computer technology and programming, we're able to understand Kabbalistic ideas and Hasidic concepts that for many years was just hard to relate to it on a physical or Gerabe context. So everything we know nowadays, we know about some people know more, some know less, about programming. So we have, just like we know when you send the email, when you send a phone number is Takazay also, that you call up, you have to have specific numbers. So the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is not just random. Is not just random. Yud Kei Vav Kei is the code of how Hashem creates the world, the 6 days of the world, of so to speak, active creation. That's Yud Kei Vav Kei. Shabbos, Shabbos in Havaya, it's a rest and a rest for Havaya, because that is the way. Yud is the idea of Chachma. Yud is the initial idea. Yud is the Chachma. It's like the Dat. And when you have a Dat, it's the main idea. In other words, just the way Hashem creates the world and communicates with the world is when it's through this medium of Seder Hishtalshalos, the chain reaction system. And the first step is the Yud, which is Chachma. Okay, from Chachma is like you get an idea, you're trying to figure out an idea. We're not going to explain this at length now, just very in short, because it's not the main topic. Get the idea, then eventually from the idea, you start fleshing it out, that's Bina. And you start making it longer, a little longer, and a little bit, then you try to bring it down to a lower level, little bit, make it more practical. You flesh out the idea. Before we're just a skeleton, that's Bina, Yud Kei. The next one, we're saying Kei, but even though it's Hey, because you don't say Hashem's name, you're very careful with saying Hashem's name in vain. So we have the Hey, and then we have from the Hey, we have Vav, which Vav has two Nekudas. Vav is, you see from a Yud, a Vav is drawing it much further down. It brings the energy much lower. But also Vav is the gematria of 6, which that's the 6 midas. We have Chachma Bina, now Vav is the 6 midas. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Yahid. Then we have Hey, which is Yisod, and then we have Hey, which the last Hey is Malchus. But we're not going to get into the details right now what this is, but this is the general system and the protocol, the general protocol of creation of the world, how energy goes from Hashem, so to speak. Every world has this protocol. Eilam Atzilus is a much more spiritual Yitzira, Bria, Asiya. So when it says Shabbos, Shabbos in Lavaya, so to speak, we're resting this system of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Now that goes both ways. It's in the creation and it's also by me. When I'm being misbainen, when I'm making my Shabbos during the week, through meditation, through Izbainenos, I'm also using this Yud Kei Vav Kei protocol. Versus the Chachma, I understand the general idea, then the Bina, and then to get into this Vav, to get to this Shisha Midas, then I need to have Das and connect to it very strongly. And then finally I get the feelings from it. And Kishem Havai Hine Yud B'chinas Chachma. Like I explained, Yud is Chachma. Hey is Bina, because Hey is you're fleshing out the Yud to more details, broader and deeper and wider. And then you have the Vav, which is the 6 midas, and then Hey. Shabbos Lavaya. Shabbos is not just, what does it mean resting? Shabbos literally means resting. You're resting for Havaya. That we're not using the protocol of Shem Havaya. We're higher than Shem Havaya. In other words, like we said before, it's not based on seichel, it's not based on intelligence, it's higher than intellect. This is what it says, that Havaya is the God of knowledge, is Lashon Rabim, plural tense. That there are two types of Das, Aleph Das Elim, Abes Das Tachin. There's the Das Elyain, the higher Das, and then there's the Das Tachin, lower Das. What does Das mean? Pirish Das, Hu Lashon Ratzin. Das means wanting. Shedas Ratzin Hakelin and Echad. Wanting and knowing, the word Das literally means knowing, knowledge. When you know something, then you want it. If I don't know about it, I don't know what its quality is, I'm not going to want it. Hashem tells the Jewish people, I only knew you from all the nations of the world. That the intentionality of that pasuk is saying that Hashem chose and wants to choose me for a special nation. Ki das in hakara. Das, knowledge, means that I get to know the person, I get to know the whatever we're referring to. That's the idea of connection. Das is a connection. When I get to know something very well, it's a certain level of connecting to the idea, to the person, that brings a wanting. Also, when it says that Adam knew, it means he connected and he bounded. What's the idea of Kel Deis? That God is the all-knowing, literally it means the all-knowing God. But it means also there's two das, two connections. Meaning, the Kel Deis is saying that he's combining these two connections. Meaning, what do you mean two connections? Two getting to know. There's my getting to know Hashem, my perspective. Where during the week, like I said, we said yesterday, there's the way I think the world should run, how I think the world exists, and then through Yud Kei Vav Kei, I'm through my seichel, I'm learning about it, and I'm mingazbainin, and I realize no, Hashem Echad. It's not 100 different things. It's only one Hashem. That's my perspective. Then there's Hashem's perspective. Hashem's perspective is that there's nothing besides Hashem. Hashem is creating everything. It's Elikus b'pshitus and the Bria is b'chadshus. So Zokt, the Alter Rebbe, that's Deis. It's two perspectives. Kel Deis Havaya, on Shabbos, both of those perspectives become one. I have to make it, like we said before, you have to make the keli, you have to put in the work during the week, and that becomes a keli for the Das Alien. And then it's a Shabbos for the name Havaya. This is also the idea of Kel Deis Havaya, that it connects both the Tzinish. In other words, even though that but there's an advantage of having the Ratzon Ha'alyin. Why? Because by me, I'm trying to get to that Hakara, I'm trying to get to that perspective that there's an Eibush there, and the Eibush is Hashem Echad. Fine. But if you turn on the light, if Hashem just flips the switch, it gives me the Ratzon Ha'alyin, so then it's a clutter, it's a clearer perspective. The room is much more brighter. So Inin HaNeshama you say to the Shabbos. That's the idea of action, and that is the idea, and that is the idea of the action Neshama on Shabbos. Which that's a revelation of the Ratzon Ha'alyin from Yechidah. There are 5 levels of the Neshama, and just like we said by Hashem, we didn't go into details, but we explained that there's something called a mazel, right? We explained something called intuition, and Hashem there's 2 ways Hashem gives energy to the world, and as a result of that, there's 2 ways that I receive information. One is through my 5 senses, and one is through my intuition. Call it intuition, the mazel, baska, whatever you want to call it. So, what is really the mazel? Meaning, how do I get information from the mazel? So basically, the neshama has 5 levels. We won't get into the details. There are 5 levels. There's nefesh is the lowest level. Ruach, did you see that? Ruach is the spirit, neshama is the soul, chaya and yichida. Now the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, depending on the person, we're not getting into details. Everyone has the nefesh revealed in himself. That's one that you could, so to speak, tap into more through your 5 senses. This isn't clothed in your body. Ruach neshama, not everybody's zeicha to it. It depends how holy you are, how much you work on yourself. Chaya yichida is so powerful. That's that's parallel to the Eretz Seviv. It never goes into your body. It's surrounding. That's what the Chazal tell us. Dalid amoisav shel adam kainesloi. When a person walks around, he's 4 amas around him. Is like a chatzar. It's like a chatzar that's kaineh for him. And we see, let's say, by Yaakov and Esav, Torah tells us that when Esav came in, Gehenim came in with him, Yaakov came in, Gan Eden came in with him. What does it mean? His Dalar Amis, because his Chai Yechida is expressing, in other words, what you do, it affects your environment. your Dalet Amis. That's your Chaya Yechida. It's Seviv, it's surrounding you because it can't go into your body because it's so powerful. It's too strong. Your body's not a keli for it. So, what is he saying here? He's saying that on Shabbos, the Neshama Yeseda is the Yechida, is the highest level of the Nefesh. So normally during the week, it's within my Dalet Amis. I don't really have it's there, but I don't really can't tap into it. On Shabbos, Hashem, so to speak, reveals this in a certain sense, and the Yechida connects to whichever level of the Nefesh that's in my body that's lit up on fire. But it has to have a wick. It has to have a keli that it could, a container that it could connect to keep it into the body, because by default it's not really part of the body. Meaning it's there, but it doesn't really connect. So Shenikra Nishmas Kol Chai, that's what we say on Shabbos. We say a special tefillah of Nishmas Kol Chai, the soul of all living things. That's the Chaya. Like we say every day in davening, the Eibusha satisfies to every living thing its will, which the Pashup Pshat is, the Eibusha gives every living thing what it wants. The Alter Rebbe says, that we just taish yesterday, Ratza Banu has two meanings. The simple meaning is Hashem wanted us, and also the Chassidish taish is Ratza Banu, Hashem put the Ratzin Ha'alyin into me, that He let me tap into the Yechida that normally I cannot tap into it on a day-to-day basis. Hashem allows me to tap into the Yechida. At the level of the Ratzon L'chol Chai comes in the level of Chai. And from there comes from this it affects. That's step number one. Step number two is that the literally means that Hashem fulfills what the righteous people, those who fear Him, want. What those who fear Him want. That if a tzaddik wants something, tzaddik is it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mekayim. The Rebbe says, Hashem macht uf, He makes the Ratzon Ha'alyin, He puts the Ratzon Ha'alyin into them. So this till now, the Rebbe was discussing Misha Tarach B'Erev Shabbos, what it means Baruchnis. Now that the Rebbe is going to discuss Shabbos' effect on the rest of the week. We know on a very practical level, the Chacham tell us that Shabbos is Minei Mizbarach in Kol Yamin. That Shabbos is so powerful that all days of the week are blessed and benched from Shabbos. So the Alter Rebbe weiter, when the Ratzon Ha'alyin is enclosed in the Ratzon Ha'tachton on Shabbos, as I nimshach imenu gam kin ha'ara b'chol sheishim yamaisa. And also a ray stays over, even though it leaves after Shabbos. The Neshama said it leaves after Shabbos, like we know, and that's why after Shabbos we eat Melava Malket, we Melava the queen when she leaves, the extra energy, spirit of our soul. There's a minute to drink tea, because from Be'er Shal Miriam, and that's a segula to help you against depression, because it's very easy to get depressed. Shabbos, you have this lichtik neshama, you're so inspired. Now go back to, you taste a me'ein, Shabbos is me'ein Eilam Haba, you tasted a me'ein, a sample of Eilam Haba. Now to go back to the week, it's difficult to go back to the darkness. But, says the Alter Rebbe, a little ray is left throughout the week. That is left in the person a ray, a shine from this Ratzon Ha'alyin that's higher than Seichel. When does it express itself? It expresses itself in the time of davening during the weekday. When you're waking up with love and a desire, a deep desire to Hashem, blessed be He, which that is a ray from the holiness of Shabbos, which shines during the weekday. It says, the Holy Zohar, Kabbalah, Yoima da, this day, Yoiv Chela, it gives energy. This day Shabbos gives energy, gives vitality. It pumps up the rest of the week. Therefore, I could shine into the rest of the week also a little ray of Ratzon Ha'alyin. Let's skip the parentheses. Sure, you know, we'll do it inside. He brings down from a Kabbalah Sefer Reishis Chachma that he explains what the Zohar says, that every single day you have to bring in a little bit of Shabbos into your life every day. So Pirush Mashkos V'Kedushin Tiyu Chuli L'Hamshich Olav M'Bchina Shabbos V'Kedushin So it says in the pasuk, you should be holy. What does it mean you should be holy? You should draw down from the level of Shabbos, which that is, Shabbos is by default holy. My regular weekday is not holy. It's called Chayil. It's a regular day. And I should bring Kedoshim to you means you should bring Shabbos into your weekday. Because of it's Chaim Shtesis Naran Hami'idim b'Shabbos Einon Nistalkin Gam K'Meis Achil Rak B'Chinas Tesis Chai Nistalkin B'Meis Shabbos Kedesh Chuli. We from the Pri Etz Chaim, another Kabbalistic text says that we said before the Naran, the Tesis Naran that shines on Shabbos don't leave the weekday. So in other words, so we're saying an interesting thing, that the Chai Yechida, these are the part of the Nefesh that come only on Shabbos. At Mat Shabbos they leave. But when they came on Shabbos, they upgraded. Every week we get an upgrade on Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, known as Naran for the abbreviation. So, even though the Chai Yechida leave, but Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama are not, they're not how they were before. Just like it's in Klippa, when a person, once you say your first lie, once you eat from the tree of knowledge, you're never the same. So too, once you experience the Ratzon Aliyim, that whole week is a whole different week. It's a different week. It's an Ander Avach. But you have to prepare yourself, like I said before, to accept this. Because like if I pour you a cup of coffee and you don't have a mug, it's going to fall on the floor. So through thoughts of speech, thought and action. Torah mitzvahs, which they are vessels, they're kelim for Naran, which is better to come on in Zayin Kanem and Eram. We'll explain later on about the 7 poles of the Menorah. The Menorah had 7 lamps, 7 like poles coming out of it, which each one had a lamp on the top. How? That through doing Torah mitzvahs, we draw down this same Ratzon Halim that comes on Shabbos, we draw it down by doing Torah mitzvahs. So in Chulin, Shnas, or Taras HaKedesh, this is the idea. The Torah tells us something called Chulin, which was performed through holiness. That's specifically when during the weekday is shining the light of Shabbos. Davening during the weekday is an intermediary between Shabbos and the weekday. Which draws down a ray of the Ratzon Aliyim, which is revealed on Shabbos and all the weekdays. And now we understand what davening is compared to a ladder. The Chesiv says in the pasuk about Yaakov Avinu, when he was on the way to Charan, he went down to sleep and he put the stones around his head. Then he had a dream. What do you see in the dream? Vihine Sula Mutzav Arza. A ladder was, when you have a ladder, you have to stick it into the ground. You can't just put it on top of the ground. You have to want to dig it in. Eretz means it's on top of the ground. Arza means you're digging it into the ground because you want the ladder to be stable. When you're climbing up, it shouldn't fall down. But the top of the ladder is reaching the heavens. So davening is a ladder. Davening is a ladder. That I start off my day, like I said yesterday, and we said again today. I start off my day, every day I start off deep in the artzas, deep in the air, deep in the ground. I start off, what does it mean deep in the ground? It's not a bad thing. It's chayil. It's just the fact that I don't feel, in other words, the fact that I feel Olam Hazeh as a Metzias, and Elikus is Bischatshos, that is artzah. So then I have it, but Eibusha gave me a sulam. I have a ladder. Just like a ladder, I could put the ladder on the ground, and I could climb up from the ground to the roof. So too, someone who's on the roof could come down to the ground. So too, davening is compared to a ladder. So too, davening is a ladder that helps me ascend level upon level to the highest levels. How does davening help me? Through crying out to Hashem with an inspiration of my heart, that I want to go completely to Hashem, which that is the idea of bring up man. Man is a mayin nukfin, which is a feminine energy, feminine water, that the Jewish people are compared like the bride, and Hashem is compared like the groom, chas and kala. So I'm making my initiative, which is the mayin nukfin, the feminine energy, which a feminine energy is from below to above, to go ascend, from ascend to ascend, to the highest levels, to be included in the infinite energy of Hashem. That's how I go up on the ladder of davening. So too, I could also descend from a higher level to a lower level. When I reach the highest levels, and now I have the Ratzon Aliyah, and I have it, then it's awakened and drawn down to go down from level to level. I can't just stay in a spiritual level. I have to bring that level down now through davening, bring that Ratzon Aliyah, that energy down back into my life, that I should have this Ohr Hashem, this light of Hashem in my life through the 6 days of the week. And this is what it says in the pasuk. Yaakov saw on the ladder that there was malachim going up and going down on this ladder. The ladder, you have these two levels. This going up and going down. And that's the idea of davening. The ladder refers to davening. Davening connects the holiness of Shabbos with the 6 days of the week. That should shine the Ratzon Aliyah that's in Shabbos and all the weekdays. That it should be chulin, which is performed through in a holy manner. How? Through going up and going down. Have a wonderful day.